so many people here, I knew Kevin was a popular guy. I didn't realize he was so popular. But he was a good friend. He was someone that I knew. I originally met Kevin back in high school, grade 12 sociology class. Bob Douglas was teaching now, and I don't know if Bob's here today. Bob, over here.
Wow.
Bob Douglas was teaching that class. And it was a source of information for us. It was a source of questions. It was an ongoing source of discussion. And it really bonded that kind of friendship that Kevin and I developed in those early years. We also spent our evenings at another friend, and I don't think he's here, Roger Cormier.
Oh, I was hoping to see him too.
Roger?
Roger?
No? Okay. Just wanted to check. I left him a message, but I didn't hear anything back. These were evenings that we spent listening to music, talking about lyrics, talking about how the music melded with the lyrics. And you had to be a teenager to know how deep you could go inside of that stuff, right? How important you thought it was at the time. But nonetheless, it was there. And with Kevin, you always knew he had such a sharp mind. He had, and it just continued to grow, such an incredible, extensive knowledge of music and then into movies later on. But back in this day, it was music that was speaking to us, I guess, so loudly. Kevin and I also went to Sheridan College. We signed up at the same time. And maybe something that a number of you don't know, Kevin, when we signed up at Sheridan College, he signed up for the journalism program, which had he continued to do that, he may not have ended up doing the stuff that he actually did. I started off in, graphic design. And it took me all of 2 classes to figure out I didn't want to do that. So I wandered around Sheridan College, and I saw this place that said Media Arts, right, up above the door. And I thought, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. So in I go. I find out that they're working with tape recorders, and we're talking old school, right? Back in the day, mid-70s, there was no digital stuff, anything like that. Everything was done by hand. And there was film, and there was television, and there was photography, and I felt right at home. And I remember going to talk to Peter Mallet, who was the dean of the Media Arts, and I said, I'm in graphic design, but I want to switch over. And I did. 3 weeks later, Kevin followed me. I got tired of writing obituaries. I remember him pointing out, I wrote another obituary, and I have to write another one for tomorrow. I said, come and take a look at the media department. And in he came. Well, I'll tell you, for the 2 of us, that was an ocean that we swam in for the next 3 years. We did all kinds of things. It was a way to sharpen our skills. It was a way to look at the world. It was a way of being creative with documentaries that we could do, with editing stuff that we could do. One little thing, I'll just give you an example of how Kevin and I approached this. I was approached in my 3rd year. Kevin and I were both in our 3rd year in Media Arts. I was approached by an organization that had a tape of a person speaking at a conference that they had put on, but the person had a cold, and they were coughing and hacking while they were trying to give their talk. And the organization wanted this talk. They wanted to copy it and send it out to their representatives across the country. They wanted 100, 150 copies, I forget exactly how many. But they said, you know, this recording is really a mess. Can you clean it up? And I thought, of course we can clean it up. And of course I called Kevin right away. Kevin, we've got some work to do here. And we did, and it took us 3 or 4 days of really close editing to do that. But by the time we were done, you would never have known if that person had even a single cough or what they were talking about. And the rhythm of the speech, I'm talking editor's language now, the rhythm of the speech and how careful you have to be with the pauses between words. Kevin and I were big on that. that stuff. And when I gave it back to the people who were at that association, not only were they pleased with it, they were amazed because they knew how messy it was coming in. Just one of those things along the way. But it typified something about Kevin that I always knew way back in those days. He approached everything with an open heart. He approached everything with passion. He wanted to go to the end of what was there. And maybe that was typical of our young years, I don't know. You know, after Kevin and I graduated from Sheridan College, Kevin, I think, started working at CJRT, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. And I had gotten married and was starting to raise a family, and those of you that have done that, you know how that can take you away from the world that you're used to, and you start developing another life. And for the next 32 years, I lost touch with Kevin. Hadn't seen him for that long. And then a friend that we have in common, Tony Slaughter, got me hooked up with Kevin on the internet. Kevin says, we have to get back together again. I'm all for it, right? So we set up a supper meeting here in Toronto. It was at the Silk Bistro down on Parliament Street. And I arrived first, Kevin arrived next, and of course when he walked through the door, I haven't seen him for more than 32 years. I recognized him right away. When we were at Sheridan College, you've seen some of the pictures up here with Kevin with those long lion's mane of blonde hair, gorgeous head of hair. That was Kevin at Sheridan College. But even without that, you'd recognize Kevin anyway, right? Very distinctive. He sat down, we started talking. I don't know if any of you have had this experience where you haven't seen someone for so long, and when you see them again, you pick up right where you left off. My God, we talked for 2 hours before we even gave our supper order. The waitresses were very nice about the whole thing, but they had to kick us out at 10 o'clock. We were still talking, and they had closed the restaurant. Excuse me. In this first meeting, Kevin gave me a copy of the book that he wrote on the Beatles, the one that Adam was referring to, Artificial Paradise. He said, take a look at the dedication. And in the dedication was myself and Roger Cormier. Sorry for that. There was a dedication in there to myself and Roger. All those conversations that we had about music way back in the high school days. How do you pay someone back for that kind of acknowledgement? So I said to Kevin, push this down. Okay. I said to Kevin, you know, I don't know how to pay you back for this, but I'm going to make an offer to you. And I offered to take him to a place that I have in Clearwater, Florida. And I said, he was undergoing chemotherapy at the time, and I had been diagnosed with colon cancer. I went through surgery and chemotherapy, and I know on a personal level some of the struggles that you can go through. I said, Kevin, you want to get away from this? You want to take a little bit of time for yourself and enjoy things? Come with me. And I needed to make him understand this wasn't just a casual, nice dedication, here's something I can offer. I was serious. And of course I kept at him periodically over the next little while. That was in November when we were talking about this. So finally Kevin said, I'm seriously looking at this. I'll see if I can work something out. And I said, okay. I was retired at the time, still am, right? I can set my schedule for anything that I want. So I said to Kevin, give me a call. Give me a call and let me know when you can go. And he said, well, it may be short notice because I won't know until I'm, like a few days in between my chemo treatments. And I said, that's okay, don't worry about it. I have a cottage in Nova Scotia. I'll so he calls me up and I'm in Nova Scotia. He says, I can go. This was a year ago, last August. He said, I can go. August the 12th. This was August the 9th. The next day I left the cottage. I drove 2 days to get back to Ontario. I said, Kevin, I'm here. Are you ready to go? Yeah, let's start off tomorrow. And off we went. And what a road trip. Here I had Kevin all to myself. The conversations that we went through, some of the things that we talked about, oh my God, it was hours on end. And I knew this. I knew this from when we were back in college. I knew from when we were in high school. And this was the Kevin that I knew all the way along, right? We get down to Tampa. On the way, we decided things like Harry Nilsson probably was the best male vocalist to come out of the 70s. There was no one who could beat a note to death as good as Lindsey Buckingham. And a number of other things. We disagreed on one thing. But you know, when we investigated stuff, it was all, we wanted to get to the heart of it. And it was never a debate between us. It was never, no, it's this way or this way. It was more like a tag team. You know, what do you think of this? Oh, yeah, I like that. Did you consider this? And we'd walk each other through it, right? The one thing that we weren't able to resolve, did Humphrey Bogart really sleep with Ingrid Bergman? And that scene in Casablanca where she comes to get the transit visas at night. Kevin says yes, I say no, no. So I'm willing to defer to Kevin on those things. But anyway, we get down to Florida. Kevin is still going through his chemo. He's got his PICC line in his arm and it has to be flushed out. And we started working on, you know, where we can go to get his PICC line cleaned. It was usually done once every week or so. And in the meantime, while we were looking for that, I was doing research on Leonard Cohen and some very deep stuff, a lot of books, and I brought all that stuff down with me. And I showed it to Kevin. I said, here, check this. Have you ever seen this kind? And off we went on our conversations, right? Kevin said, you know, I interviewed Leonard Cohen. I said, I didn't know that. He said, yeah, back in 1984. He had just come out with Book of Mercy. And it was just before he had released the Various Positions album. And I know some of you already know this story. Leonard Cohen, after the interview, Leonard Cohen said, I want you to hear a song because I think it explains a little bit more about the different things that we were talking about. And he's got this nondescript cassette, has no label on it. It's a studio mix of the album. And Kevin puts it on. He said, cue it up here. And he did, and the song that was played, Hallelujah.
Oh my God.
You know, Kevin didn't know at the time, nobody knew at the time that that was going to be such a huge, enormous hit for Cohen, and it took years for that to develop. And we started talking about that song. It must have been 3-4 hours later.
Wow.
We had taken that song apart, put it back together again, stripped it apart again, put it back together again. He said, this is amazing stuff. He said, you know, you should really be doing a presentation on this. You should really set up something. I said, I don't have anywhere to present any of this. Well, Kevin, with his connections, he certainly did. Just 3 weeks ago, November the 5th, I did that presentation up in Owen Sound. Scott, are you here? Kevin's brother, Scott, are you here somewhere?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I remember.
You were there, right?
Yes, I was.
In Owen Sound.
So was she.
3 weeks ago, yes. 3 weeks ago, I was there and doing that, but that all came from Kevin. That was his encouragement, that was his insight into things. Marvelous way to do it. When we were in Clearwater, he had to get his PICC line cleaned. And he couldn't find any place that would take him. He was phoning around, I was driving him to different clinics, and the Americans, you know, they don't have hospitalization, medical hospitalization like we do. It's all private insured, right? And no one would take him because he wasn't insured. They didn't have the liability, they wouldn't touch him, wouldn't go near him. I happen to know a lady down 2 doors down from me where we were staying, my place in Clearwater. her husband had died from cancer, and she had told me before that she had to flush out his PICC line and that sort of stuff. Her name was Sophia, charming lady, open-hearted like Kevin was, right? Open to all sorts of things. I said, maybe we should check with Sophia. So we do. Kevin is talking to her. I go back into the house. Kevin comes back and he says, Sophia's going to drive me around tomorrow. She knows a number of places. You know, maybe it's just me. I don't know, because there's a big 30-year gap where I didn't know Kevin. Anyone else understand this kind of secret, sort of very subtle charisma Kevin had?
Oh, yeah.
Ever notice that? I did. I saw it. And here's Sophia. He's been talking to this lady for all of 20 minutes. And she's driving him all around town the next day, trying to get his PICC line flushed. I talked to Sophia after that day when she was driving him all around. I went to thank her because she is such a good, open-hearted person. I said, Sophia, you knew this guy for like 20 minutes. She says, I know, but he's a friend of yours. He's okay. And I said, well, why would you go and do that? She said, look, my husband died 17 years ago from cancer. He was the sweetest man I ever knew in my life. Kevin is a sweet man. You just want to hug him. I said, okay. Is that as far as it goes? You know, here's another one. I'm sorry, Adam, I'm adding on a couple of minutes here, but here's another thing. This past summer, I went on a trip to the United Kingdom. Went through England, drove up into Scotland, and then over to Ireland. Well, Kevin knew that I was making this trip, and I said to Kevin one day, this was back in May or June, I said to him, you know, I have to go on this trip, Kevin. And I'm traveling around and I'm going through Ireland. Is there anything you'd like me to bring back? Anything you want me to do? He says, I know someone in Ireland. And I said, oh, you do? He says, yeah, and I want you to take a book tour, if you can. Well, Ireland's a big country. I said, okay, where is this person? If you've been following Kevin's posts and his Facebook page, you know the name Grace Quinn. It was Grace that he was talking about. She was a huge Frank Zappa fan. And of course, that's right up Kevin's alley, right? He wrote the book, Dangerous Kitchen, Frank Zappa. So he said, I want you to take this book to Grace. Here's another example of this kind of charisma that Kevin has, right? So I say, okay, I'll take it. I did some research on the internet. I tracked her down where she was. She has a record store in a little town called Gorey, just about a half hour south of Dublin on the west coast of Ireland. Make a long story short, it's a Friday morning. She didn't know that I was coming, and Kevin wanted to make sure that she didn't know this was supposed to be a surprise. So I walk inside. I say, you know, I'm looking for Grace Quinn, and I think I found her. It's a vinyl record shop, and she's flipping through and pulling out records. There was nobody else in the store. And I said, Grace, we have a friend in common. And I introduced who I was. I said, you know, I'm from Canada, and we have a friend in common. She said, oh, and who would that be? And I said, well, his name is Kevin Currier. And you know that moment, it takes about half a second for it to click in someone's mind who you're talking about, and then they know, and they respond. I said, he wanted me to come to see, and I didn't even finish the statement, and she had her arms wrapped around her. Big hug. And I will tell you something else, that I was the one who was standing there in that record store, small town in Ireland. I was the one who was standing there, but you know who the hug was for. It was for Kevin, and it was heartfelt. She lets me go from the hug to her tears coming down. How does he do it? How does he do it? This is a woman he's never met, 3,000 miles away. He's only talked to her on the internet, and she's raining tears with this. I gave her the book, more tears. I said, Grace, would you do me a favor? I had a suspicion. I never asked Kevin about this, but I had a suspicion that Kevin had never actually talked to Grace. He'd never actually met her. I said, Grace, would you do me a favor? Would you be willing to let me record a minute or so of video where you say hello to Kevin. Would you do that? Of course, she was willing to do whatever. And she, you know, if you knew Kevin and how exuberant he could be about things, how exhilarating he was when he got talking, Grace was the same way. And she had that, I've discovered I have a weakness, guys. She had that Irish lilt to her voice, that Irish accent. And I said to Kevin later, I said, you know, Kevin, I felt a little bit like Ulysses tied to the mast listening to the song of the silence. Because she had, and a beautiful laugh and all kinds of things. And she said her hello. I brought this back to Kevin, and I came back, and this was around the end of July. And I said, Kevin, here you go. You need to see this. Kevin watches it, well, don't you know? Tears from Kevin, the same as it was from Grace. How did he make these connections? I don't know. Anyway, back to Clearwater. I had planned on taking Kevin to Cape Canaveral to watch a launching of one of the rocket ships. I think it was putting a communications satellite in orbit or something. And we finally made it. I think it was on the Tuesday of the week that we were down there. We finally made it over there. And we went inside the Kennedy Space Center. I had never been there before. It's an amazing place, and if you ever get a chance to go, you may want to go. And there's a reason why I'm pointing this one out. Hang on just a second, I'll get to it. You can go to, I think there are 3 or 4 different locations. You can't see it all in one day, it's too big. But we chose to go to the Apollo missions, which was a series of missions that placed the first man on the moon, right? Neil Armstrong, like the movie First Man, is that now? Same thing. And here they've got all kinds of stuff. And Kevin and I were just swept up in the whole spirit of the thing. You know, he said to me, Kennedy started this off in 1962 and declared that by the end of the decade, by the end of the 60s, the Americans would put a man on the moon. And they started from nothing, from zero. They had nothing. And they built it all up, and they did it. And I was there, and I imagine most of you remember. Where were you when Neil Armstrong took that first step on the moon? I was in my living room watching him do it on TV, and it was a clear night, I remember, and I'm looking at the moon out the window. And I'm going, wow, what's happening here? It was happening up there. Kevin was thrilled with this kind of thing, because it reminded us of our days back in Sheridan College when anything was possible if you put your mind to it. We went outside, we had seen those huge Saturn rockets and what do they call it, the lunar module, thing that looks like it's made out of tin foil and pieces of tin cans put together. Holy cow. And those guys went all the way to the moon and down on the surface and landed there. Kevin was the one, he said, you know what, this is like back at Sheridan College, this is the same kind of school. And I said, you're absolutely right. It is. Kevin had such an expansive heart that way, and he could make these connections, make these links. I'll wrap this up because I'm probably way over my time. He was a special person, and I think when I think of his open-heartedness, I see it in his work. I see it in the friends that he has. It's a very powerful thing. There's a bit of a hole in the world where Kevin used to be, and I think it's that way for most of us. But nonetheless, he was, in my mind, the very best of friends. That's what's